I love the UFC. I love MMA. I love this sport. I absolutely cannot stand the UFC's heavyweight division. You think about boxing, you think about the stars that are around today of boxing, not even the all-time greats, the Anthony Joshuas, the Tyson Furies, the Alexander Usyks, even the fringe contenders like the Fabio Wardleys and the Joe Joyces of this world. All of those guys are absolute specimens. And what do we get in the UFC? We get Vitor Petrino, Thomas Peterson. We get Chris Barnett. Heavyweight boxing is the staple of boxing. It's the big men, it's the power punches, it's the big hitters. When you see a heavyweight boxing fight, you think, oh my God, oh lordy dordy, these guys are gonna go down and smash each other's faces in. It is the prime time of boxing. Flip that to the UFC, and it's the joke of the company. And I don't think I'm the only one when I say I absolutely dread to watch the UFC's heavyweight division. UFC 321, we saw Louis Sutherland versus Volter Walker, and we saw Chris Barnett versus Hamdi Abdelwahab. Now, not only do I think those two fights are one of the worst on the entire card in terms of skill and actual ability, but I also think Volter Walker getting his 4th heel hook in a row over Louis Sutherland. I'll repeat that again for you guys. His 4th heel hook in a row inadvertently shows just how bad this division truly is. 4 opponents in a row knew what Volter Walker's biggest strength was. 4 opponents in a row all looked absolutely clueless when he used it on them. Not a single one of those heavyweights knew how to defend a basic heel hook. Now, bearing in mind a heel hook in the lower weight classes is one of the rarest submissions because nowadays in modern MMA, it's so hard to actually get off on your opponent. It feels like it's another example of just how far behind this division actually is. I am aware, by the way, that Louis Sutherland would break me in half, right? I'm self-aware. I don't even need to say it. Some of you might already be thinking it. I'm very self-aware to this fact, but I'm just being honest. I'm just keeping it real with you all. I dread to watch this division whenever it's on. It's god-awful. Most of the fights are terrible. Most of the fights are clinch fest. Most of the fighters gas out within like 2 seconds of throwing a combination. Look at the Chris Barnett versus Hamdi Abdelwahab fight. Now, as funny as it was to see Chris Barnett's big juicy bunda on display for the world to see, how bad was that fight? Genuinely, not a single person on earth thought that was a high-level fight, and not a single person on earth saw Hamdi Abdelwahab or Chris Barnett and thought, God, those two are bangers. Those guys, they are really the staple of the heavyweight division. And I know Chris Barnett is a nice person, so I don't want to dump on him too hard, but he is 5'9" with a 75-inch reach. Chris Barnett genuinely would be a middleweight if he got in shape. That's the truth. And that isn't just for Chris Barnett. The truth is most of these heavyweights outside the top 10 and outside the top 15 are true middleweights, but they're just out of shape. Hamdi Abdelwahab, who dominated Chris Barnett in that fight, didn't look in amazing shape and didn't really look amazing in general. Really, a top-level skilled heavyweight should be able to finish Chris Barnett in that situation fairly easily. Marcin Tybura, Sergey Spivak, I literally call Marcin Tybura the king of the blobs and Sergey Spivak the prince of the blobs. The blobs is a nickname MMA fans have ascribed to the UFC's heavyweight division because it is so dross that people literally sit there watching it and laugh at most of the fights that go on. But we do see some good KOs in the UFC's heavyweight division. Thomas Peterson versus Vitor Petrino is another example. On the Oliveira versus Fiziev fight, that fight saw an amazing KO where Vitor Petrino knocked Thomas Peterson out cold. But before that was shaping out to be one of the worst fights of the card. From a quality point of view, from an athletic point of view, it was so painful to get through that we did see an amazing knockout, but overall, it was a terrible fight and another example of just how bad this division is. Both of those two, during the fight, gassed out well within like 2 minutes. And Vitor Petrino, he showed up in pretty decent shape, and even he was gassing out after throwing like 5 combinations at Thomas Peterson. And I'm not even going to go into Thomas Peterson, just look at him, take a guess. He barely even managed to get through the fight. He didn't look great whatsoever either. The heavyweight division should not be the worst weight class, people. Now, I am aware that lighter man skill may apply to the UFC. The heavy guys in boxing and in the UFC are never going to be as skilled as the lighter guys, but it should be the staple of MMA. It should be the pride of MMA. It should be the division everybody looks at, and each matchup you think, oh, these two guys hit hard. These two guys are big men that are about to go down and trade off in the centre of that octagon. But instead, most of the time, I'm watching the heavyweight division wishing instead it was a flyweight matchup. And dare I even say, sometimes I find it easier to get through the women's strawweight matchups than I do the men's UFC matchups. It should not be this way. And I'm just keeping it real. I know I'm negative here, and I know these guys would absolutely fool me, but that's not the point here. I'm just a fan looking at a division and thinking, this has to be a lot better, and it should be a lot better. And we as fans, we've got to demand more from the UFC here. Look at Cyril Gane going into the Tom Aspinall fight. Cyril Gane looked very, very shredded. He is a genetic specimen. Look how hyped up people got just by looking at Cyril Gane's physique alone. That is a rarity in today's MMA scene. That's why it hyped up literally the entire fan base, because seeing a good physique and seeing a six-pack and seeing a torn set of triceps in today's MMA landscape is genuinely like a rarity in this sport. I'm not expecting Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar would absolutely get folded by testing. He wouldn't even get folded by the modern day heavyweights because he wouldn't even make it into the octagon. I'm not expecting these big, juicy Shane Carwin, Brock Lesnar builds because those guys were absolutely juiced to the gills. But at the very minimum, can we not see 6 foot plus big guys getting into that octagon in tremendous shape and with great conditioning? Why is it too much to ask for athletes in what is meant to be the most prestigious division in the sport? Why is that too much to ask? And why is it apparently so disrespectful to mention? It's the truth. It's the truth. This division is dying. It's the truth. It's such a hard watch 90% of the time. Even the highest level fights like Volkov versus Almeida absolutely sucked. And look, I'm aware that Volkov and Almeida, they're in great shape. They look good. Almeida especially. But overall, that fight wasn't even good. So even at the top contender aspects, unless it's someone like Tom Aspinall or Cyril Gane, even those fights aren't delivering. And for me, this division is in dire need of help. How do I think they can do that? I think the barrier for entry to get into the UFC needs to be a lot harsher. If for the next few years the UFC need to have a much more shallow heavyweight division, and believe me, it is very, very shallow at the moment, then I think that's what they need to do. They need to make this barrier for entry to get into the UFC's heavyweight division extremely difficult. And sometimes, whenever people mention removing the weight cap limit from the heavyweight division, I genuinely think at this point that's a terrible idea. In boxing, you can get Jarrell Miller, big hulking tank of a thing, coming in 300 plus pounds, and yeah, he does gas out during fights, but he's still an absolute block unit with a thicker neck than my head. And believe me when I tell you, you might not be able to tell right now, but my head is very, very thick. You have guys like that weighing in at over 300 pounds in boxing, but brother, could you imagine if they removed the 265 pound weight limit from the UFC? Imagine what Tai Tuivasa would turn up looking like. I'm just keeping it real. And those guys are nice people. I'm sure Tai Tuivasa's a great person. But brother, the state of this division is actually cooked. There's no other way you can put it. And I'm sick of watching it every week. I genuinely dread watching heavyweight matchups in the UFC, and it fucking should not be that way. You should be more excited to watch heavyweight matchups than any other fight on the card. This has got to change. The barrier for entry to get into the UFC's heavyweight division needs to be a lot more harsher. But then again, I'm just going to complain about it on a YouTube video. No one will care, no one will listen. But at the end of the day, if you enjoyed this video, please do let me know. Like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications. Let me know in the comments what you think. Am I overreacting? I certainly don't think so. I think this division is in dire need of an improvement, and it's in dire need of athletes at the bare minimum. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because you look at the rest of the UFC, you look at some of the athletes at flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight even. A guy like Vitor Petrino moves up to the heavyweight division and he looks better than ever. That's a guy that lost to Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, past his prime. Anyway guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Goodbye.